political developments across the country. And of course, all these political developments have a link to the economy. And we'll be having an interesting panel to discuss some of the recent developments. We'll be speaking to Chris Diaz, the head of marketing, and he's actually the director of marketing at Bidco Africa. We'll also be speaking to Caroline Kariuki, the chief executive officer of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, just to get a sense of where the economy is headed to, even as the country has just under 5 days to the general election. We'll be having that conversation, as well as what's happening across the business landscape as we bring to you Kivumbi 2017 edition. Well, in regard to the upcoming elections, we want to take a look at how the money markets have been performing in the last few days. And today we want to start it off with a look at the capital markets in times where we're seeing the shilling remaining quite steady against the dollar. Of course, we've seen a number of developments on the currency markets. And right now, the shilling is trading at 104 to the dollar. Compared this to sometime last month, it was at around 102. Some interesting moves there on the money markets. Of course, that continues to be a big area of focus for many financial leaders in the country, where we're bearing in mind how the Kenyan economy is linked to the dollar when it comes to imports, being a country that is heavily reliant on the imports to meet the local demand. Well, speaking about the money markets, let's take a look at it's 1 week to the general elections, and the tourism prospects at the coast of Kenya seem promising than ever. Italian leisure airline Blue Panorama has made a return to Mombasa after a 6-year hiatus. This is expected to bring home hundreds of visitors in the next few weeks. Hoteliers at the coast say numbers have extraordinarily shot up thanks to the stable state of affairs currently in the country. KTN's Francis Ontomwa has the story from the city of Mombasa.
Product and the resumption of operations of the prestigious Italian airliner Blue Panorama. The 250-capacity plane touched down minutes before noon, carrying 121 Italian nationals. Excitement seemed to have greeted the arrival that now breeds freshness in the industry.
For sure, safari, a lot of animals, to go in Safari Tsavo, to go in Masai Mara, to see a beautiful seaside of Kenya, especially in Malindi, Watamu, and enjoy the holiday.
The tourists have been booked at various hotels in north coast areas of Malindi and Watamu and the south coast.
No, I'm not afraid. I think it's a country like all the other all over the world, so why I have to be afraid? So quiet here.
Local tourism authorities say Blue Panorama, which pulled out of the Kenyan route in 2011, will be making 3 flights a week on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays respectively. Traditionally, election seasons have witnessed low numbers of tourists, but this time around things look different.
The whole campaign period has been okay so far. We haven't seen anything adverse, haven't had anything adverse. There's still a lot of confidence. I had meetings last week with tour operators, European tour operators, asking exactly the same questions. We have been telling them we're very optimistic about what is going to happen. Their forecasts are looking very good. So we just hope that the day comes and goes and we move on.
Travel advisories issued in the past saw the industry lose its luster, but with the fresh openings now showing up, the future is even brighter. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Well, indeed, interesting numbers there on the tourism front, as was alluded earlier by Patrick Obath, saying that tourism numbers are looking quite up this time round compared to the last election cycle in 2013. Well, moving on, Britain's Holding PLC has launched an asset management company in Uganda as it seeks to extend its asset management offering in the region. The new company, Britam Asset Managers Uganda, is modeled along a similar successful company in Kenya. It will offer investment management and advisory services to pension funds, insurance companies, corporates, government-owned entities and retail investors in Uganda. The company has received received the requisite regulatory approvals from the Capital Markets Authority from Uganda and the Uganda Retirement Benefits Authority, and will leverage on the success and expertise of Britam Asset Managers Kenya to grow its market share in Uganda. Well, that's one of the big stories we're keeping an eye for you on the business front. And still talking matters financial services, and the KCB Foundation, through its flagship program, Tujiajiri, has graduated a total of 367 beneficiaries at the Mirama International College. The students who have been undergoing training in hydroponic techniques of producing vegetables, tomatoes, strawberries and livestock fodder included 63 special young men and women who were under 18 years old, some of whom are undergoing juvenile rehabilitation. The government of Kenya recognized the vulnerability of these young people and admitted them to receive support under the Inua Jamii program. The KCB Foundation complimented the efforts of government to transform their fortunes and enroll them for technical, vocational and life skills training under the Tujiajiri program. Also graduating at this ceremony were another 146 youth who hail from needy families.
We are victims of being addicted to salary. But through this journey, in my world, I see individuals who are now large corporates who started just like yourselves. They are employing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people.
Tujiajiri program is a program that has gained global attention because of the differences or the difference it's making to the lives of our young people.
Collectively, if you do what it is you're supposed to do, we are looking at an income of 12.5 million every single month.
Indeed, some positive developments there for the young people just days away from the elections. And I want to bring in a gentleman who is not known to many, perhaps especially since he moved houses, and now he's the marketing director for Bidco Africa, formerly from Kenya Airways, and that is none other than Chris Diaz. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having us in studio.
So Chris, it's 5 days to the elections, a lot of talk in town, especially there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to what will the outcome be. Perhaps from the business community, what are some of the focus you can share with us this afternoon?
Well, thanks, Abby. In terms of the business community and also from a perspective of the board of Bidco Africa and the thousands of members in our team, we're very optimistic. And we're also on the mode of expansion. As you're aware, we're investing in Ruiru. We have 80 acres in our Bidco Industrial Park. And I think majority of our partners are very optimistic. Kenya is a great market. And also our consumers have been very supportive. And we look forward to a positive, fair and free elections. And going forward, the markets are very vibrant.
All right, markets are very vibrant. And Diaz, looking at the elections, there are issues you can never divorce between the election and the economy. Right now, many Kenyans are quite optimistic, as you've rightly put it. At the same time, most are also cautiously optimistic in the eventuality that the outcome is handled pretty well and we have a smooth transition. From a consumer standpoint, what are some of the trends we are seeing in terms of purchases being made? I know you do represent one of the companies that is in the consumer fast-moving goods.
Well, that's interesting again, Abby, because the consumers are looking for high quality, but there's a big consumer pattern on Buy Kenya, Build Africa, Build Africa products. So from the brands, the Kenyan brands, they have been taking market leadership. And if you see in the last couple of weeks, our sales have been very high. So there's a lot of sales movement, meaning that consumers are stocking up and also the distributors are stocking up. Again, with the products that we are producing and the different business investors are bringing in the consumer circles are continuously in demand because you need hygiene products and you need food products throughout. Even in challenging times, our sales are still very high.
All right. Of course, you wear the other hat where you sit at the Brand Kenya board. And it is interesting that you're talking about people are already stocking up. And I'm sure there are similar trends also in aviation where you worked before. Perhaps Perhaps, is this a unique occurrence you're seeing in a few days to the elections, or it's something that is cyclical?
Well, if you look at the different industries, they have different peak seasons. For us, in the food industry and in the detergents and hygiene, personal care, this is consistently high for us because the consumers are consuming this regularly. But if you look at the aviation business, we are in peak at the moment. For June, July, August is peak season. So again, Kenya is a very important transit point. So a lot of traffic inbound, a lot of marketing being done by Brand Kenya, and Tourism Board has seen traffic coming in. And also there is the transit point where the rest of Africa connects through Nairobi. So we are definitely going to, it'll be interesting to see how we progress beyond elections.
All right. And Chris, looking at the recent developments around the IEBC, where we did see the ICT manager murdered in mysterious circumstances, this sort of has a dent on Kenya's image on the international stage. And of course, we have tourists also who would love to come to the country, like we did see in the earlier report by our colleague on Tomo. From an international standpoint, do you feel Kenya is still an attractive destination for not only investors, foreign diaspora remittances, to even investments?
Well, that's a good question. First, sincere condolences on the late Chris Msando's to the family, and we as Kenyans really feel sad and we're very shocked. On the point of global positioning of the country in Kenya, definitely there's a microscope after this incident on Kenya and how we will be carrying out free and fair elections in the next few days. But from a global perspective, Kenya is a great destination, it's great attractions. As you know, in the World Travel Awards, Kenya won over 20 awards. So it's a leading country in Africa for the attractions. And the number of tourists coming in has grown.
All right.
And you will also realize that 60 million tourists came in the last 12 months into Africa. So again, Kenya remains very strongly positioned in the marketing of the Tourism Board, Kenya Invest and Brand Kenya. And we should continue as the people of Kenya with a great hospitality to have a positive narrative to the global markets.
Do you feel, as the business community, does the IBC still have its credibility despite what has happened in the last few days?
Well, for sure, the IEBC will have the honors of running a very good elections. We're very confident from the private sector. And we feel that Kenya is resilient, and we are looking forward to a great future for Kenya.
And of course, politicians continue to make reckless remarks in their political rallies. At the same time, the business community has not come out strongly to hold politicians to account for their remarks and also calling for sobriety. Perhaps from where you sit, where are we in regard to ensuring there is decorum and sobriety in this kind of scenarios where we have people speaking to people who are your consumers from one side, and on another end, they are their voters?
Well, for me, I would like to first to challenge and ensure that from our side and from the political leadership that the narrative is positive. We have to be responsible that to ensure there is no fake news and we are able to bring stability and peace and take responsibility for Kenyans. We Kenyans need to be proud of our country. From the consumer point of view, it's really, really important that we have stable, free and fair and credible elections because we want the future leadership of Kenya, our children's children, to have a great future in this country. So it's a balance from both of us to have a positive narrative, to be responsible, and to ensure that everyone comes out and votes in a fair manner, and we have a great future, again, for our great brand, Kenya.
All right. Speaking about the future, looking at Kenya right now, we did see 2007, the country was up in flames. And of course, no one would want a repeat of that. From a business community standpoint, where are we in regard to how has the business community fed into the policies that various political blocs have been declaring in the public?
Well, for 53 years, Kenya has done really well, and I think there is a good partnership between the political leaders' policies, and again, from a private sector, which is driving the economy of Kenya. We have clear objectives of positive growth in terms of the business, in terms of investment. And the big thing for us from the business community is create employment. Employment and entrepreneurship is going to drive this country forward. So we need to work very closely with the leaders that will be elected. And also the leaders that who we may not win, we will continue to work with them. And in general, the business community is very positive, optimistic, and looking forward how we can partner with the entire people of Kenya, the rest of Africa, and ensure that our business is growing.
All right. Of course, elections are it's an event that people should be happy about, that you're getting the opportunity to elect your preferred candidate. At the same time, elections are very tricky events for a country, especially from a supply side of things. You've talked earlier on about people stocking up. From a manufacturer's point of view, do you have sufficient stocks to feed the masses, irrespective of the outcome of the elections?
Well, from a perspective of most of the manufacturers, including ourselves, we're very well organized. We have enough stocks. Our products are in high demand, and we produce millions of products every day, every month. And the stocks planning for distribution is that all our distributors are well stocked, and the replenishment program is well handled. And our trucks for distribution will be going across the country. So we're looking forward to our consumers getting the products in high quality on time.
All right. So, Chris, parting shot, perhaps, what's your focus really for Kenya after the elections? What would you like to see happen?
Well, for me and you, Abby, and for the rest of Kenya and the rest of the world is watching us. And I think we have to make this one great nation, one cohesive country, one Kenya. And we look forward to a very stable and peaceful elections. My mind is to make to request all Kenyans come out and vote for the best leaders and ensure that we support Kenya and make Kenya a great country in across the world.
Many thanks there. Chris Diaz speaking to us.
Thanks, Abby.
Just 5 days to the elections. He is the marketing director for Bidco Africa, sharing with us his sentiments. And the business community remains rather optimistic, even as the country heads to the polls this coming month of, actually in the current month of August the 8th. Well, before we wrap it up, we want to take a quick look at the money markets and how they have been performing since trading kicked off. We've seen the NSE 20 share index shedding off 55.03 points to stand at 3,742.50, whereas the all share index shed 3 points to stand at 158.35, and the NSE 20 share index dropped 56.41 points to stand at 4,214.72. And of course, the money markets have also been quite active, where we've seen the shilling trading at 104 and the euro is at 115. On the other flip side, we've also seen some interesting moves from the sterling pound at 137 shillings to the shilling, actually, and the euro, I beg your pardon, is at 122 and not 115. Well, aside from the money markets, let's move to now how the NSE performance has been in the last few days, where there are the numbers. The NSE turnover is at 1 billion shilling, whereas the shares traded is at 58 million, and the NSE 20 share index, like I put it earlier, it's at 3742.50 points. Bonds traded 808 million, quite some significant drops there on the bond market, where we've seen the bond markets have been attracting some interesting moves the last few weeks and months. Finally, let's take a look at the biggest movers. And these are the most active stocks. Safaricom tops the charts at 23 million. Cooperative Bank coming in second at 7.51. Kenol Kobil 6.65. And Equity Bank at 5.35. And finally, let's look at some of the winning stocks. And we have Unga Limited up by 4.1%. And the share price at 31 shillings. Mumias also moving in quite strong at 4.76. Samia at 3.77%. Centum at 1.24%. And finally, let's look at the losing counters. And this afternoon, these are the numbers. And we have BOC gases, they're down 8%, and Kenya Orchards also down 7.41%. Scan Group also not doing pretty well in trading today at 4.26%. Finally, we see TPS Arena down 4.17%. Those are your numbers from the money markets as well as the capital markets. Well, on that note, we want to pave way for an continuing edition of Kivumbi, where my colleague Akiso Andera will be coming up next just to give you the latest developments from the political world. My name is Abi Gina. Stay tuned.